sew myself shut. My weakness is that I can't do much, and my scars remind me that the past is real. I tear my heart open just to fail.
What's good? My name is Charity Croft. You know what's super annoying? When we as black people try to talk to white people about their privilege.
Hello there, I'm the Common Sense Guy, and do you know how annoying it is to be able to talk about racism? But then when we talk about racism that we experience, apparently we don't experience racism, even though you're judging me on my colour and my experience right now.
Be like, hey friend, I know that you're not a racist murdering slave owner, but you still do benefit from a historical system of white supremacy that has put your people at the top and my people at the bottom.
Is that the reason why we've had a black president, or a mixed race president, you know, at the top, not at the bottom?
And then they respond like, no, bro, my nigga, I'm the furthest thing from privilege. And racism is basically over. I'm struggling just like you. And in all honesty, if you guys would just like focus on building up your families and stop, you know, selling drugs, you'd be better off.
Do you know why people always bring up the fact that, you know, white people are generally most of the homeless people? Generally, they're one of the highest percentage of homeless people. Generally, they're also very high on poverty scale as well. When you say that it's a system that is benefiting white people, then surely a system that would benefit white people wouldn't actually necessarily let any white people be at the bottom of the scale. I mean, really at the bottom of the scale, where they don't have a home, where they don't have anywhere to live, where they don't have running water. You know, really privileged fucking stuff, right?
Of course, this is a response completely rooted in privilege, and only someone that is totally unaffected by racism can say something as crazy as racism is basically over.
You know that thing that you said and causes, experience? That's just what people experience and what they portray. By what they're trying to say is that generally it is not acceptable to be a racist. It's not acceptable in polite society as well as in society with your own friends. You still get called out on it, and so you should do. But it's the principle of you saying that, racism is really, really high at the moment. No, it's not. Racism actually comes out socialistically and moralistically, apparently, almost as high as raping somebody or almost as much as going to kill somebody. It is now more prevalent in certain societies to say that we would rather have rapists in their country than racists. Now, that's a moralistic argument, and I'm not going to get into that. But it's just to show you the level and the fact that people actually think that racism is really, really bad. And it is. So when you sit there and try to say, oh, that's just rooted in privilege and you have no idea what's going on, it's kind of your privilege that you're actually being able to sit on a camera on a YouTube channel and actually be able to, you know, spout your views. Now, I'm not trying to say that's a good or a bad thing. It's just a case of check your own privilege, maybe.
Check this out. That's the same type of stuff that we as black men always say to black women every time they try to check us on our male privilege in sexist ways.
So now we're going on to feminism. Interesting. So, tell me about your version of feminism. Because I did a video on black feminism before. So tell me your version of feminism.
We just act like they the ones tripping, and we tell them they're really not being oppressed by men, and it's all in their heads. We can only say something as crazy as that because we are not the ones being affected by that type of oppression. And
what type of oppression? You completely and utterly fucking glossed over that little point. You're saying, they'd be tripping and thinking that people were oppressing them, but you didn't explain what it was that they were tripping over though, did they? Or did you? So, what are you actually talking about on this point, or are you just trying to draw more people in? Are you trying to dog whistle to try and get more people into your video, to try and understand your point of view? Or are you drawing false equivalencies and actually putting disingenuous statements out there? I'm going to go with the latter. Please prove me wrong.
that's why straight black men are the white people of black people. And I know what all the bros thinking. Nah, bro, you tripping. Don't you know we out here getting shot by the police like dogs? Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin. Women ain't gotta deal with that, bro. They ain't gotta deal with that like we do.
For a start, with actually going into the actual points of the different women and things like that, it's a case of the people that you're actually naming, some of them were a case of they had weapons or stuff that looked like weapons, or weren't obeying police or were trying to run away. Or, in some cases, even actually fighting with police officers on the floor. If you're going to tell a narrative, make sure that you tell the whole narrative, not just a narrative that suits your purposes. But please, continue on trying to educate me on the privileges that I have that apparently you don't. Which, by the way, you haven't mentioned what they are once.
Yeah, bro, that is messed up. But have you ever heard of Alberta Sproul, Miriam Carey, and
Right, this is Miriam Carey. And police apparently have shot her 5 times. Let's actually get into the story of the reasons why police may have shot her. So instead of going through the autopsy bit, I will be linking this in the description box below. So please have a look. If we have a look, the chase began at the White House. On October 3rd, Carey approached a White House checkpoint and was approached by Secret Service officers. She made a 3-point turn, striking an officer who was trying to move a barrier into her path. So she's already hit somebody by driving erratically and for some reason trying to make a 3-point turn in a queuing line of traffic in going into the White House. Interesting. According to a affidavit filled in support of a search warrant, police said the car sped down Pennsylvania Avenue toward the Capitol, where security vehicles stopped it at Garfield Circle. Carey put the car in reverse, hit a police car, and drove away as officers fired at her. So she was trying to get away from the police for whatever reason. She was running away. She's already hit a police officer with her car, and then she actually decided to ram into another police officer's car to actually try and get away. And then as the police were firing at her, she then actually got shot because of the bullets that were being fired into the car to stop her. So when you say she was unarmed, she was still using the car as a weapon, wasn't she? But I suppose the facts of what actually happened don't really want to support your narrative, do they? As I said before, the link will be in the description box below. Read at your own leisure.
Michelle Cusseau? Yeah, me neither before I started making this video, but those are the names of unarmed black women who were also killed by the police but got no media attention. In fact, black women are actually murdered by the police at higher rates than black men are, but their stories are left untold because it's not as interesting to talk about women.
In that case then, let's go through your list and let's actually have a look at their stories then, shall we? Starting with the first one. So, starting off, we have Adisha Miller. And this is obviously from the Daily Mail, and the link for all of these that I find will be in the description box below, and will be subsections obviously for reference points. So we have the actual story from the Mail Online. Police now say that the girl, Adisha Miller, who was fatally shot by an off-duty officer's gun at a Detroit fish fry, was kneeling behind the married man as she danced and touched his waistband, where the gun probably would have been. So when you say that she was an unarmed and was shot by a police officer, it was accidental and the police officer wasn't even on duty. But, you know, facts. They kind of get in the way of narratives, don't they? So now we have Aletta Thomas. Now, I'm not intellectually dishonest. I will tell the truth and I will stick to the truth. In this instance, as you can read here, Officer Mary O'Callaghan hit and kicked Alessa Thomas in an assault captured by a police vehicle camera. So as you can see, a Los Angeles police officer has been sentenced to 3 years in jail for assaulting a woman who died shortly after a 2002 arrest that was caught on video. So there was actually caught, was prosecuted, and was actually had prison time for this. Unfortunately, and I say this honestly, unfortunately she wasn't prosecuted for the death, even though she was obviously at fault for the death. But trying to say that these people, these police officers are doing this indiscriminately is just intellectually dishonest. And for saying that it's white males or anything else like this. In this case, it was a 50-year-old woman that did this. That doesn't give it any credence for it being right. That doesn't give it any pass for being right. Because no, it was completely and utterly wrong what this woman did to, unfortunately, Alessa Thomas. But it's a case of be intellectually honest. Don't try and lie about things to suit your narrative. Again, link will be in the description box below. Please have a look. So now we come to Aiyana Stanley Jones. And if you're going to put people actually in your video, make sure you actually get their names right. And don't just rely on stock images. Because the name that you gave was spelt wrong and was wrong. But it was good enough to be able to get to where we were going to start off with. So you have 2 trials against Officer Joseph Weekly, which was the person who apparently shot this poor little girl. Ended without verdicts on the charge of reckless use of a gun. During the second trial, Judge Kathleen Gray Hathaway dismissed the most serious charge, involuntary manslaughter, saying there was insignificant evidence. So, Weekly shot Aiyana Stanley Jones as she slept on a couch in a Detroit home in 2010. It occurred during a frenzied raid by elite officers who burst through the door to search for a murder suspect after throwing a fresh grenade to confuse anyone inside. And a reality TV crew recorded the scene from the streets. So first of all, it was already frenzied. You have the actual raid going on. So they're looking for somebody who is known to them as a murderer and is actually just committed murder. So they're going to be a little bit on edge. Now, that doesn't give them the right to be able to have done this. No. Does it give them the right to be able to get off with it? No. But you have to understand that this wasn't done as an unprovoked, unarmed attack. There were mitigating circumstances in these acts. But I'm guessing that's going to actually be a common phrase of what goes on through this point. So, Weekly insisted he accidentally pulled the trigger during a struggle with Aiyana's grandmother. She denied grabbing the weapon. So, he's saying that somebody grabbed his weapon and the bullet was discharged as a struggle was going on. I don't know whether that's true or whether that's not. But if that's true, then that kind of makes the point that there was something going on. It wasn't just him shooting. So this is the advocate, and we're now talking about Miss Harris. I'm sorry, but I cannot pronounce the first name, and I don't want to try and get the name wrong. But you have police officers shot and killed a 17-year-old who had driven into a police car on Sunday night, according to state police. Police responded to a disturbance on Laundry Street about 7:40 p.m. when a 2005 Toyota Corolla driven by Danasha Harris, 17, of Bricksbridge, struck the front of a police car, state police said. Harris then put the car in reverse, struck a parked car on the road before driving forward again through a ditch, striking a bystander and another parked car. Again, not really unarmed, as she's driving around in a massive car, trying to attack the police with the car and accidentally hurting somebody else in the process. This is the story of the police officer that was driving a cruiser at 94 miles per hour. And and was driving down a road to responding to a call without his siren going. That crashed into another car that killed most of the people in the car completely and outright. I honestly feel that in this story, the police officers should still have and be in prison and have a prison sentence. He should not be treated leniently because of his service. He should have been treated more harshly because he should have known better. But to go on this narrative that these people were shot and murdered and killed simply because of their race and their colour, that's not true. And this is to do with Miss Eaps, or Mrs. Eaps. So, a tragic story, but was accidental, and there was no malice in it. Yes, the police officers should have got more time, and I agree with you on that. But don't try and turn it into something that it wasn't. So, to begin with, because of the age of the shooting for Eleanor Bumpurs, sorry if I pronounced the name wrong, I'm not doing it intentionally to cause any disrespect, I'm just retarded sometimes. Because this happened on October 29th, 1984, I will quickly read some of the Wikipedia page. Now, I'm not saying that Wikipedia is a true source, but it's to give at least a variant of the information that was actually being spouted, trying to say that this was an unprovoked shooting. Was an African American woman who was shot and killed on October 29th, 1984 by New York City Police. The police present to enforce a city-ordered eviction of Bumpurs from her apartment in the Bronx, since she was 4 months behind on her monthly rent of $98.65. In requesting the NYPD assistance, housing authority workers told police that Bumpus was emotionally disturbed, had threatened to throw boiling oil, and was using a knife to resist eviction. When Bumpus refused to open the door, police broke in. In the struggle to subdue her, one officer shot Bumpus twice, unfortunately with a 12-gauge shotgun. Now, again, I'm not trying to say what they did was the correct course of action. I'm merely attempting to show you that this was not an unprovoked attack, in which some people, yes, I'm talking to you, sir, are trying to push this negative narrative that people are being shot indiscriminately for absolutely no reason whatsoever. So, as you can see, they have more of what happened on the actual incidents. Apparently, she also went to see a psychiatrist as well. He concluded that was psychotic, unable to manage her affairs properly, and should be hospitalized. So, unfortunately, was a psychotic by the doctor's premise. Also, as well, was a case of that she couldn't handle affairs. I'm not trying to say that what the police did was right. I'm just trying to say that there is a point when you have to look at what's actually happening and not just making everything about race and about police trying to shoot you. And I remember, this happened in 1984. So, this is the last person on the top, going from left to right. This is Erica Collins. So, Cincinnati, Ohio, the family of a woman who was shot and killed by a Cincinnati police officer has filed a lawsuit. Now, that's not what we're interested in. We're now interested in what supposedly have happened. The lawsuit was filed Wednesday against the Cincinnati Police Department on Officer Matthew Latesy, who shot and killed Erica Collins, 26, while responding to a domestic abuse dispute on October 13th. At Collins' home in Mount Airy, Collins was armed with a butcher's knife. So that narrative of police shooting unarmed victims kind of goes out the window again, doesn't it? Just because you're not armed with a gun doesn't mean that you're not armed.
This means that even in death, black men are acknowledged more than black women. We black men are not nervous walking past a group of black women, while on the other hand, they are petrified walking past a group of us, because 1 in 5 black women will be brutally raped at some point in their lives.
I would like to know where you've actually got your statistics from. I'm actually going to provide mine in the source box below. So please have a read and, decide for yourselves. Because the 1 in 5 statistic that 1 in 5 people will be raped in this country or in the US is not true. Because it was actually derived from a campus that had a very small poll, and it was only done as an internet poll, and actually only included females in that poll, for instance, and decided that it was going to skewer the questioning and the questions of what it meant to be sexually assaulted rather than being raped, and the fact that being sexually assaulted was also skewered in that statistic as well. And now that everybody that uses this 1 in 5 statistic will always cite that as a source. I've got a source that's in the description box below, as I've just said, from Time Magazine, that completely and utterly debunks the whole of that. So when you say that 1 in 5 people are going to be raped, or 1 in 5 women are going to be raped, because rape only affects women apparently, it's a case of, no, you're telling absolute bull, and you kind of need to do your research. But then again, I've kind of already proven that you need to do your research, considering that the list that you gave, even on the top line, all of them actually weren't unarmed women that just went about their day. In fact, a lot of them were armed, just with knives and with cars instead. But, facts and feelings and all that jazz, right?
Black women are expected to be independent, but not too independent that they're not a little submissive to their king. Black women are expected to be smart and pretty, but not too pretty, because then we'll think they're not that smart and that they only get to where they are because they're pretty. And you know what happens when a black woman gets angry? We say, see, that's why you ain't got no man.
See, I'm actually trying to struggle what your actual point is on this, because all you're doing is classifying stereotypes that you would do. This is supposed to be how you're the white men of black men, or whatever the premise of this story is, which, by the way, is 3 years old at this point in time, which you can quite easily find this on the root if you wanted to have a look at it properly. It's around about 3 years old. And you want to sit there and trying to conflate stereotypes of your own selves with people in your own race and your own class and whatever, but you want to try and say that it's due to racism or due to sexism. Is that not something that you need to sort out yourself in your own race and your own class? Or is it something else that you're going to blame onto other sections of people? Because I just want to know. Because at this point in time, you're just talking in circles.
As if their value as a human is predicated upon whether or not a man likes them. Meanwhile, we men never have to worry about that. A black woman could be a multi-millionaire. If she doesn't have a man, we treat her like something is wrong. Like women are still socialized in 2018 to believe that the 2 most important days of their life are prom and their wedding day. The 2 days when a man chooses them. When I, as a straight black man, walk into a room full of black women or queer black men, I am immediately seen as some sort of an authority figure. When I go to the cookout, I am immediately given the big piece of chicken. And as Damon Young, a very smart brother, says, I am given the biggest piece of chicken and the biggest seat at the table despite making the smallest contribution to the meal. And then guess what? My grandmama gonna tell whatever woman I arrived with that she better go make my play while I sit and play dominoes with my cousin because I'm a man. We treat women like objects. We put them next to fancy cars in our music videos because we see them like cars. Something to ride and then dispose of when we're done. Something we can just put in park and sit in the garage and expect it to be there when we're done doing whatever. Something, an object. Women feel the need to lie about their sexual partner so they're not perceived as hoes, while we men pride ourselves on how many women we have sex with.
I didn't actually realise how fucking right I was going to be. Your predicating and disingenuous statements are exactly the same as what the feminists are making. But yet you're trying to allude to the point that everybody thinks this way, that everybody is that way, and this is a pandemic that's going on in African American communities or in the mouse species in general. That's not fucking true, mate. It's not true at all. For instance, you're trying to say that people judge people on how many people they sleep with. Yes, because it kind of gauges the idea of whether you can have a long-term relationship with that person or not. Whether you can decide whether or not you can settle down with that person or not. Women do the same thing to us. If they see a player, they don't generally stay with the player. And I'm not going to use that same predication of saying, well, if you don't like the game, then don't hate the player. I'm not going to say that. It's a case of we do that as a evolutionary trait to realise that if we want a man to stay with us, then if we keep on sleeping with other men, it's not going to happen. Because, you know, standards? Because standards don't apply to women, even though that we actually provocate that to ourselves. And the same idea that men go around slapping each other's asses going, oh, how many you slept with today? Oh, I've slept with 10. Is absolutely ludicrous. Only idiots do that. Only players do that. Most people are happy with the woman or the partner that they have chosen. And as for the fact of sitting at the table, at the head of the table and whatever, it's a case of generally you're the one paying for the fucking food. That's the reason why you're head of the household. And notice I said generally. And if you are not the head of a household by not having the most paid job or anything else like that, then you better be fucking cooking and paying your way, so to speak. You're just putting out stereotypes. I can't believe how right I was in this. And it's just a case of you have not answered any of the questions that you have tried to actually put down. All you have done is predicated and produced more and more disingenuous fucking statements than anybody that I have ever heard of. Now, as I've said before, all my links are in the description box below. I ask you, whoever is watching this video in general, because I'm going to post it on his channel and find his Twitter as well and post it on his Twitter, because I feel that people need to actually be educated and actually challenged on their ideas. So challenge me on mine as well. But just remember that my links are in the description box below. I will stand by what I say. Let's see how long that this person stands for on his ideologies and his points. So with that all being said, I think it's best for me to say au revoir, farewell, adieu, auf Wiedersehen. I'll see you all again. But first of all, don't forget to like this video, don't forget to subscribe to this video, and don't forget to check out my new videos. See you all again real soon. Bye bye for now.